It's all shiny.
Right, ladies and gentlemen, tonight's talk. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Chuck. Thank you, Ricky. Thank you. They'll be chucking out tonight. Yeah. Tonight's talk is on my trek to Everest Base Camp. Now, you may immediately ask the question, why Everest Base Camp?
Why not? Because you can.
Well, you didn't think I was going to actually get to the summit, did you? No, the thought of actually seeing Everest, I think, goes back to my youth. Probably, dare I mention, back to my scouting days. Before they invented the term bucket list, I thought, well, it would be good to see Everest. And when I get to my middle age, as I have done, it seemed that I ought to be doing something sort of fairly quick, or it might be slightly too late. Now, the thought I had earlier on was that I would do it with my two sons, James and Alex. We'd done, Snowdon and Scafell Pike, and we'd youth hosteled in South Wales and Dartmoor, or whatever. However, key thing is acclimatisation, and it's not something to be taken lightly. And so you can't do Everest Base Camp in a week. Normally you're talking about 3 weeks or so. The other aspect was the physical training, and I got 2 books of walks. I got a book on tea shop walks in Hampshire, and a book of pub walks in Hampshire and the New Forest.
That's good.
And when I got to the end of my training, I had in fact done all of the pub walks, but strangely, none of the tea shop walks. Anyway, the acclimatisation thing, I thought, well, I've got to try and do something. So I sought out the highest peaks in Hampshire. And in fact, I scaled 2 of the 3 highest peaks in Hampshire. Winchester Hill, 195 metres, and the accolade of my mountaineering skills, Butser Hill, 235 metres. However, that is pales into insignificance against Everest Base Camp at 5,350 odd metres. So that was something that was rather difficult to be sure of. Now, if you go online, you can find loads of companies which will do the Everest Base Camp trek. Meanwhile, I started my walks back in the beginning of November, year before last, and I got up to, as I say, I did all the pub walks, and I think the maximum I did was 17.5 miles in a day, but all at approximately sea level. I started to look at companies, went online. You can find about 15 different companies that will give sort of varying support. I didn't want to do the trip where you actually had to carry all your pack with you. Just a day sack with a modest amount of gear was about enough as I could manage. I came across a company which I thought would be good, which turned out to be one of the initial companies, going back to the early 80s when these treks started. There were 2 companies, and one of them was the company Exodus. And the 2 things that attracted me, there was an award-winning leader, Valerie Parkinson, who is at the moment out at Everest Base Camp, trekking towards Everest Base Camp. The other thing was that on this particular trek, you could actually stay at base camp, whereas most of the other trips, and what formerly happened, is that you would have to get to a nearby village, and then you'd have a 3 or 4 hour trek into base camp, stick around in a queue for your photograph, and then trek 3 or 4 hours back. So that was the one I plumped for. So this was kind of beginning of February last year, and that stage I went through all the details. I thought I'll book it through a big company because I didn't think I'd managed to get to the end, so I booked it through Hayes Travel. They're bound to have to get me out in some small plane or helicopter or whatever, and I thought that was my insurance. Anyway, so I booked up with Exodus. I then looked into the detail, and they had a 7-week training program. Unfortunately, by this time, there was only 4 weeks left. However, I carried on with the pub walks through thick and thin. Now, I must check next. Andrew Mills, he's not in the audience, is he?
No, he's no longer a member.
Oh, thank God for that. He's our resident professional, used to be our resident professional photographer. And I know what he'd be thinking. He'd be thinking, Julian, you should have put something in the foreground of that picture, or the depth of field isn't right in that, or you should have done a bit of technical work on that photograph before presenting it to these good people. All I would say was, when you're on the trekking trail, there's often not a lot of time to spend on taking a photograph, particularly when some passing yak is intent on putting its horns up your bum. As may be confirmed by the other member in the audience, who actually is here, is Linda Jenkins, who is my fellow trekker, who's come down with her husband Brian from Manchester, so thank you for coming. And that means that I've got someone to back up all I'm saying.
Or deny it.
Yeah, or deny it. Yes, good point. Okay, so 8th of April last year, I flew to Kathmandu via Hong Kong, and I had a full day. If we just kill the lights, please, John. Okay, hopefully that's... thanks to our marketing team, incidentally. Not all marketing information is actually true, but there's a little, rider there to say that it may not be, may or may not be. Arrived in Kathmandu, I had a full day to look around, including the Tamil district of Kathmandu. Let me just check. Yeah, that seems to be working. Got our IT man here. Everyone needs an IT man. Or woman. You may recall the earthquake in Kathmandu of 2015 when 9,000 people died, and the antiquities in Kathmandu are still being sort of repaired. There's some rather dubious cabling work here, but that's fairly normal with those areas, and some very fierce looking. Oh, that's me. I became known as the guy in the red pants. Well, there were Americans actually in our day. So yes. And unfortunately, as I've moved, I was planning to turn up in the same trousers so that Linda at least could remember me. However, I haven't actually found which box they're in yet, amongst other things. Okay. The following morning, we set off for Mantali. Which is a little airstrip for the 25-minute or so, I think, flight to Lukla. So we're going from Kathmandu, which is at 4,500 feet. For reference, Snowdon, top of Snowdon is a bit over 3,000 feet, and flying up to Lukla. I'd like to, at this point, thank all friends and family for pointing out beforehand that Lukla is one of the most dangerous airstrips in the world. I think it's the third worst, actually, and suggesting that I go onto YouTube to see some plane crashing. With friends and family like that, what can I say? What can I say? And this is actually coming into Lukla. Now you notice that it's a bit of a jaunty angle, even though it's fairly obvious here. It actually comes in at kind of 15 degrees. Most runways are fairly flat, not all of them, but this is stuck on the side of a mountain and it's actually at 15 degrees. So hopefully that would tend to help planes to stop. And then conversely, so it means they always come in the same direction, always go out in the same direction. Conversely, leaving Lukla, it's like going down a ski jump, kind of ski Sunday if you remember. We got there all intact and started our trek to our first place on our trip, and by the airfield, Hillary and Tenzing, monument to them. I was there centenary back in 2019. So here's the route. So Kathmandu to Lukla, Pakding, Namche Bazaar. We then did a trip up to the Everest View Hotel. I can't remember whether we came in this way or we came down that way. Probably Kumjong, I think we came down. Kianjuma, Tengboshi with its view of Ama Dablam. On to Dingboshi with an acclimatization trek to Nangar Chang. Then on to Tukla, as I've written here, that was a tea break. So we came all that way and then we had our first tea break. God, it was tough, wasn't it, Linda?
It was terrible.
God, dear, they just didn't feed us. Anyway, Lobushe, then to Gorak Shep, an acclimatization trek to Kalapatar, which is the highest we got to, 5,500. I don't think I managed the last 50 metres, so call it 5,500 for cash. It was about 18,000 feet, and then on to Everest Base Camp. Okay, so, oh, that's me, okay. Right, so we're on our trek. Fortunately, they organised that would be a fairly short trek initially because often there are delays, fog bound, getting to Lukla. So this is the Pasang Lamu gate. Pasang Lamu, the lady was the first Nepali to climb Everest. So this is in her memory. And here we are on the trekking trail.
What sort of horses are they?
Well, they're mules.
They're mules.
Apologies for the overexposure. That was another thing I'm sure Andrew Mills, if he was here, would have picked me up on. But
How many were in your group?
there were 6 actually. It was really good. Basically, they will run the trip, the Exodus anyway. If there's, I think 4 or 5, I think is about the minimum, and there were 6, but it could go up to 12 or 15. They might have possibly have 2 leaders, but it was brilliant because there were only 6 of us.
Yeah,
We had a leader, a guide, and a yak man. The yak man taking care of the animals, and it's a yak man whether it's mules, yaks, or zoos, and a zoo is a cross between a yak and a cow.
Oh,
So now you know. Now you know.
Really,
That doesn't sound right.
Do you have a picture of them?
Just wait. All will be revealed.
Try riding one of them.
Not tonight.
Beautiful.
Yes. So these rhododendrons or azaleas? I can't. Rhododendrons. Okay. I think I've got a feeling that the rhododendrons we have over here are because somebody nicked them from over there.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's beautiful.
The
So
colour's lovely.
here we're going through the valleys. It's reasonably warm. I mean, but we're at quite high altitude here. I think to do with the altitude, you think about it. Here we are 50 degrees north. We tend to think of the Himalayas as being ever so icy and cold, snow, ice, whatever, but that's because of the altitude. Kathmandu is 27 degrees north, so it is massively closer to the equator than we are. It's the height, the altitude, which actually gives us that really, really cold conditions there. And we are following the Dudkosi River and sort of crisscrossing over it. So fairly lush, a lot of trees at this height. And who's this? It's Linda. Here's the welcoming party from Pakding, which was the first lodge that we stayed at. These lodges are called tea houses. And as soon as you arrive, there's welcome tea. So I suppose that's where it gets its name from. So yeah, at these lodges, basically you've got a central room where all the trekkers congregate. I need to keep up with that. Hang on. And that's the central room is the only one that's actually heated, and also if there's lots of trekkers around, it does get sort of a bit warmer. And this is part of it. I mean, there's other pictures give you better idea, but normally there's a lot of wood, very well varnished. This is Katerina and Cynthia. So you've got that central heated area where everyone congregates, where you eat, and then after that you go off to your rather cold room. That's my roommate Hans. Well, that's this backside anyway. Where you've got a couple of beds, table, and it's unheated, so it's kind of basic. But so the idea is to get suitably warm enough before you actually get down to sleep. And your bags are being carried by the Zoes in our case, by the yak man. So we're just carrying day sacks, maybe 5 kilos, with water, energy bars or sachets, spare clothing. And on we went. The views are, it's difficult to sort of get too much of an idea of just sort of breathtaking. It kind of goes on and on. As you look at the scenery, you kind of get some idea of how vast it is. And on the trail, lots of mules. These are actually, there's a comment made about the loads that the pack animals are carrying, concerned about it. However, the porters are generally carrying heavier loads than the pack animals, so I think we should feel more sorry for the porters. These are coming in the opposite direction, so these gas bottles are probably empty. Okay, so look at this. So this is a porter, and that's his left leg. And he's carrying, these are either, I think they're 3 foot wide, there's 6 by 3 or 8 foot by 3 foot plywood boards, and he's got all that on his back. And I'll be coming back to this, seeing sort of other loads, but they carry enormous loads. And the porters are normally going faster than us. That's the Zoes.
Yeah.
And that's, oh yeah, it's me. Yeah, God, dear, watch out for him. Crisscrossing over the river, a lot of, well, you think of them as rope bridges, and that's Linda's right eye there. Although they're actually, it's all steel. These are steel hawsers, which are about 30 mil diameter. Hopefully the engineers know what they're doing, but we didn't come to any harm. That's the gang at the next place, looking very relaxed. So the tea houses are spaced so that you've got, reasonable distance to actually cover. Normally we would be covering about 6 or 7 hours a day. And that's another thing, when you're sort of getting into practice for these things, I mean, you might go for a long walk on the weekend, and then maybe you go for a long walk the following weekend. But this is 6 or 7 hours a day. One guy I remember passing, some Indian guy actually, he'd got his boots and socks off. I noticed that he'd got a plaster around every toe. I didn't think that he was going to last much longer. But important to get into practice, and that sort of long walks every day. Otherwise, yeah, there's no one coming along on a road to pick you up, because there aren't any roads. From there up to Everest Base Camp, it is only trekking trails. There are no roads, so there's no other opportunity. If you have to get invalided out, then there's potential for a helicopter. But anyway, we avoided that. Very religious country. So here we've got masts with enormous amount of flags, and there's all sorts of other things in relation to. So really, it's a question of getting your brownie points up while you're living, so that things will be good, when you see your creator. So here we enter the national park, Southampton National Park, which covers vast areas of the Himalayas. And on to our next, so we come from Lukla via Pakding, the tea house, and on to Namche Bazaar. Now, going back to prayer stones or whatever. So this guy is repainting this prayer rock. It looks like painting the fourth bridge, prayer and is taken very, very seriously. Prayer flags. Again, we've got a porter down here who's got 2 expedition packs on his back. He's probably got about 30 kilos there, and I'm going along with 5, and he's going faster than me most of the time. And here's the pack animals going across. In the monsoon season, this would be quite a torrent underneath here, but we're in April, which is the ideal time for getting to base camp, and the ideal time for mountaineers to actually summit. And it's very interesting, it's a very narrow time of the year. Here's Saroj, our ever smiling guide. The mantra being slow and steady. Remember, slow and steady? So, yes, I was a bit worried that at some point he might come out with fast! And I'd be saying, on your bike. And this is a guy with that wonderful smile who would come to us every morning with bed tea. So you'd be supplied your tea at 7:30 in the morning. He was a brilliant guide, Nepali guide. So now we're 2 hours from Namche. But what about, instead of just walking, what about a bit of bungee? I did slightly wonder about this. I'm sure that if I'd suggested that I actually did this, our leader, Valerie, would have said, get on your bike. No bikes there. No way, Jose. I'm not sure my back would have sort of come out of that particularly well. So it wouldn't have been good. And, there's nothing else to do other than sit and wait for someone to take you down on a mule, maybe, if you're lucky. So we're coming across this bridge. Is that why I bloody sorry, if anyone's got phones on, perhaps turn them on. And below us, we've got the bungee bridge, which no one seemed inclined to actually use. But, here's the guy. Saroj. Namaste. Namaste. Cynthia. Jim. Hans. Katrina. And great. And before that was Linda. That's you guys, and it's quite high up there. That's Jules signing off. Yeah.
Did you paddle?
No, I don't think so. I don't think that would be good for paddling down, actually. Yeah.
Did you have a problem with the altitude?
Yes. I'll come on to that. Okay. So here, locally we've got, so Hilary and Tenzing climbed Everest in 1953. Hilary then spoke to the locals to ask them what they wanted, and what they asked for was if they could have healthcare. They wanted a hospital, doctors around, and they wanted schooling for the children. And he did an amazing amount of work and fundraising, and we'll see the school that he started way back in the early 60s. And also we visited the Kumjung Monastery. So we've come from Lukla, Pakting, Onzo, and we're on our way to Namche. And here we are in Namche. It was actually, I think, just before this that I started to go down with altitude sickness. Fortunately, we were quite close to the tea house, and there's a drug called Diamox that only the hardiest of mountaineers, like Linda, didn't need to take, but everybody else in our group did. Something I've learned tonight, first time. Thanks. Yeah, so basically I was going along nicely and suddenly everything was sort of swirling around, and I thought to myself, well, either there's been an earthquake or I've got altitude sickness, and no one around me was sort of running like headless chicken, so I knew I got altitude sickness. Anyway, I managed just about to get to our tea house in Namche, and then took the drug Diamox, which I got with me and sorted out beforehand. And it takes some hours to kick in, but the following morning, it certainly made a difference. Amazing to think that that town is built with local rock. It's built with some timber. You can see a lot of trees around there, but everything else is brought in on the trekking trail on a porter or a pack animal. There's helicopters might go in and out with a few people, but virtually nothing gets in there. There are no roads. Everything, and this has worked for, well, I don't know if it's hundreds of years or whatever. Everything's been developed. Obviously, there's a big tourist trade of trekkers, but everything goes in and out there. All the food, drink, whatever. But all those buildings have been built with things that have been brought in using porters and pack animals, which is it's quite incredible, I think. Prayer wheels. Now, these prayer wheels are actually operated by this stream which is flowing downwards. So that's very efficient, very efficient method. Again, very religious. That was the view from our hotel. Bit of cloud there at that time. Oh yes, the hotel. Yeah, if you wanted luxury, you could go to the Hilton Hotel. But if you might book the Hilton Hotel, but you get to the Hotel Hill 10. And this is the. Unfortunately, I needed to. My coat wasn't actually waterproof enough, so I needed something. And fortunately, you get to Namche, so you're thinking ahead and thinking there's no way, and I'm in trouble. But you get to Namche, which is the biggest town really on the trail, and it's all you could possibly want. What better?
Julian, I see down the bottom it's got
something
helicopter
rescue.
rescue.
Yes,
car.
Correct actually. Yeah.
Helicopter rescue, yeah.
No, I'll just go for the ride, just for yeah. Yes.
There's Namaste Spa up there as well.
Namaste, yeah, that's right. Namaste is the greeting. Hello.
Yeah, but it has spa as well.
And while I did the trek, it was the longest time that I've ever not drunk alcohol. However, if you did want to drink alcohol, there were bars here. Annoyingly, I can't believe it, I'm saying this, but the Irish bar was actually closed on both occasions that we passed it. I just don't understand it. But there are other bars that you could sidle into. For example, this one, the Yeti bar, you could get served by a rather scantily clad Yeti. Rather fierce looking. I wouldn't take any. The other thing, we were worried about this. You go and have coffee and yak donut. Our leader Valerie did actually nip in to see what was actually in a yak donut, but in fact there's no yak in a yak donut. So anyway, on we went. And that's where we were, the Green Tara Hotel. And that's the view. Now on the trekking trail, forget the sort of leafy trail in Hampshire, just nice easy walking. This was fairly typical. So quite rough rock, and you had to be very careful. I got 2 walking poles. Most people have got 1 or some anyway, but I couldn't have really done it without them. You really had to sort of be quite careful about where you're putting your feet. And here's the gang. So Rhodes, that's Ferry, our leader, hands who was sharing the room with me, Jim and Cynthia from Chicago. Jim here had actually had a quadruple bypass heart operation in November before he came on the trek, which is incredible that he actually did it and survived. It's Katerina of Russian origin, based in Seattle, and this little one from Manchester. And that's looking down on Namche.
What altitude was Namche then? About? No, not exactly, just about.
3,440 meters.
Okay.
So
Higher than
that
the Alps.
is yes. What's the Alps height?
Well, I've just done 3,000. That was enough. That was enough.
Yeah.
That was enough.
Yeah. Yes.
Just to put that in perspective, a pilot would go onto oxygen on an unpressurized aircraft at 10,000 feet.
Thank you. And I left my oxygen at home. Thank you. Good point. Okay. Quite a lot has been said about rubbish ending up in at Everest Base Camp or on the way or whatever. There's been in fact, a friend of mine. When I mentioned, I wondered if he might want to come with me, a sailing friend, and he said, talked about a trip going to a rubbish tip, and at Everest Base Camp. I thought, anyway, there are a lot of focus has been on taking any rubbish off Everest, off the base camp, and the art installation, I'll just read this, made from upcycled metal and used tents, scavenged from Everest Base Camp and the Sagarmatha National Park. It holds recyclable plastic and metal waste waiting to be carried down by trekkers and locals using the pre-sorted, pre-carriaged carry me back bags and organised by those two bodies. So basically, I mean, there's a lot of focus on not using recycled things, and in the tea houses you didn't need to have plastic bottles. They would fill your bottles with boiled water, which is what we did. So we didn't need to actually dispose of the tea house, although it would have been disposed properly. But basically, you've got trekkers carrying these 1 kilo bags all the way back down. And when we got to Everest Base Camp, I don't know what Linda thought, but I did not see one piece of litter anywhere. I mean, we were sort of fairly early on, a lot of the expedition teams hadn't arrived, but I'm sure there'll be a lot of focus on any plastic litter actually coming back down. And up to the year that I saw, which is some years back, they'd actually got over 24,000 bags of recycled material had actually come back down through the various centres from base camp and below. So, when I see my friend, I will point out that Everest Base Camp and the trekking trails were massively cleaner than either Southampton or, in his case, Plymouth. So I think he needs to check his facts. And I've been there, and he hasn't. Okay. Yeah, 2 poles. I definitely needed them. This is looking way down on a Chawton, which is the prayer statue, which is way down below.
What religion is it?
Well, there's Hindi. I don't know if there's other religions as well.
Buddhist?
Buddhist, yeah. There's,
So it's a mixture.
yeah, yes. I couldn't give you a complete answer on that, I'm afraid. Oh, and I think this was the first site of. I think here we got the first site of Everest. Yeah. Everest is actually back here. It looks lower than here, but it's actually massively in the distance.
Yeah.
So it has this kind of low pyramidal top, rather than being quite as pointed as some of the others.
What's the climbing route up there?
Sorry?
What's the climbing route?
Would it be up there?
That's on my next trip. Well, you.
Is that the South Col down to the right?
We've got other photos later. When I was at the South Col, with Linda will back me up on this one.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. She was dragging me up.
Yeah.
And that's another mountain. All right, so next we came to the Everest View Hotel, which tourists can actually get helicoptered in. And this was built by the Japanese. Unfortunately, they didn't think sufficiently about acclimatization. So Hotel Everest View, a great place for trekkers. And Everest is actually in the background there. Now, so basically they built this place, and you would wake up in the morning, you would pull back the curtains or the blinds, and you would have your view of Everest. Unfortunately, if you've been helicoptered in, the Everest View Hotel is 3,800 meters. Unless you've acclimatized, you will tend to get altitude sickness. So they got tourists in, they got altitude sickness, and then they went back down again. So that's not good business. However, it's fantastic for trekkers, because from this balcony, we had wonderful views. And the weather, we were, I think, very lucky with the weather, because generally we had, fairly, clear skies, sunshine, whatever, and good viewing. And this is Everest, which is just in there. So this is the South Col. So that's the South Summit, that's Everest, the South Summit, South Col, and this is Lhotse. And the Hillary steps are somewhere up there, not sure. But we didn't bother with that. Just to prove I was there.
Photoshop's amazing.
AI these days.
Yeah. Why do you think I've got my IT man sitting here?
Chat GPT,
Going back to the prayers, here we got prayer stones. So we've had prayer rocks, prayer flags, prayer everything. And I think we were supposed to go around these one way rather than the other, weren't we?
Anti-clockwise.
Anti-clockwise, okay, right. And here we got our yak. Yeah, without the donut. So much more shaggy than the zoes. And the yaks like to be up higher. And they go up to about 5,500 meters, which is up to the snow line.
Did you try their milk?
No, I don't think I did, actually.
No, but they heated our tea houses.
Dung.
The dung.
Dung, yeah. Oh, right, yes. Yeah, good for heating. Yeah.
That's a yak donut.
Yeah.
A smoothie. Oh, and here we have the Hillary School that he started and got funding for in Kumjong. Here's a cartoon. I don't know quite when this came out. So the idea was that Hillary would be searching for the abominable snowman, and the daddy abominable snowman, Yeti, whatever, is saying to son, probably, stop worrying. After all, how do we know that Sir Edmund Hillary really exists? Okay, so this is a Chawton there.
Is that the one that you could see from the distance?
Not sure, probably not. There were a lot of them around.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, and here we got prayer wheels, so we can spend our time going round and round and round, doing prayer wheels. And the locals, you think, well, what will the locals do when they're not working? And here we found this local snooker hall.
a snooker table.
Yeah, it's on the back.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, the slate would have come up in sections on the back of porters. Okay. So then, of course, we're in Yeti country. Skull of a legendary creature, well preserved at Kumjung. So we also went in to see into the monastery. So and we did a second trip actually, which is kind of more detail. So here's in the monastery. If you were thinking of doing anything bad, probably with these guys around, you probably would have second thoughts. Yeah, particularly that one. Okay, wildlife. Would anyone like to hazard a guess at what this is?
Chuff?
Correct. We were really chuffed to see these. Sorry. Which we do see in the southwest. I'm not sure I've seen one or not.
Yeah.
Wales?
It was Wales.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Very good. Now, talking of porters, this is a lady porter who is carrying that. God knows how much it weighs, pretty amazing. And we arrived at Amadablan, Kinjuma, the next tea house.
Was the food good?
The food's good. So we were told not to have meat because basically we never saw any refrigerated porters or refrigerated pack animals. So the thought was that wherever it's coming from, by the time it gets to where it's got to get to, it's well defrosted. And I remember seeing at one point there was sort of spots of blood actually dripping along the way, which I assume came from some hunk of meat rather than hopefully some porter. So we were on vegetarian. I can remember Sherpa stew, which I had when I was told I had to eat something with more calories in it. So we were told vegetarian only.
So where do the vegetables come from?
They grow them in the ground.
I know, but do they...
Next question.
What sort of vegetables then?
Green vegetable.
Carrots, a
Carrots.
lot of cheese, loads of eggs. Eggs are good.
What?
Eggs,
Do
yeah,
they have
vegetables. They
chicken?
grow on
They
trees.
do.
They are.
Yeah.
No, yeah. It was just yes.
But the chicken would still seem to be a bit ropey to
Oh.
eat. So
Yeah.
you could if you wanted to, but
It was advised against.
yeah, advised against. So eggs were safe. Yeah.
The cheese was made from yak milk?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
The cheese was great, to be
Was it
honest.
nice?
It was really nice.
Yeah,
My
food
daughter-
was good.
Because you can get
No, a lot
yak
of
milk.
noodles as well.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Noodles and like pasta.
You could have pizza. Probably not
Spices?
the best of pizzas.
No.
but I mean,
No
But
spices.
they did do beans on toast.
yeah.
That was nice.
The thing, what we were told is just eat. Don't worry about fussing about sort of having the local stuff. Eat what you want to eat because it was difficult to get much of an appetite. I think a lot of the time, but just eat what you fancy. You know, if it's beans on toast or fried egg or whatever, chips. Eat
Dalbat.
because dalbat. So you needed to get energy into the system.
Yeah.
So that was important. So I was slightly berated by our leaders. Eat more, Julian! Okay. This is the view out of the room in the tea house. Again, pretty rough sort of trail. You wouldn't want to sort of fall headlong down that.
Julian, did you have a proper camera? It wasn't your phone, was it?
I've gone off you actually.
It does,
No, I mean-
Sorry, you mean that in a positive way or a negative way?
In a positive
Oh,
way. Because,
lovely to see you tonight, Jackie.
because
Lovely.
at the end of the day, unfortunately, photos never actually give you the experience, do they? They just give
No,
you
no, that's extra.
an idea.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, most of these were taken with this camera, which is packed up. Yeah.
Like a big,
What are
heavy
these?
camera.
Excuse me, just saying, so we have a technical break here. Yeah. Hang on. Oh right. Oh well. Yeah, it's the annoying thing about. So I was trying to video this, and John is actually videoing this, but in my camera, it stopped after. So I didn't set the timer on it. So it's.
Is that your camera on the
It is.
tripod?
It is. That's
Well, the
so.
front
That's.
It was
camera.
a little one, it wasn't like a great big lens.
We don't have things like that these days.
You've got to
No,
carry
this,
it
that's
anyway.
quite a good camera. Even Andrew Mills, the infamous Andrew Mills, thought that was quite. I think it's similar to what he's got. So yeah. So, but one of the things here is that there's a good telephoto lens on it. I mean, I know phone cameras nowadays have wonderful telephoto lenses on them, but that was kind of useful. So it's quite. I mean, that particular photograph was taken from.
So what are these animals?
That's the local mountain goat. And here we have a load of yaks. As they're coming towards us, they're probably all those gas bowls are empty.
Amazing.
But yeah, I tried to get his coat off him, but he wasn't. He wouldn't have it. Wouldn't have it. They make such a lot of noise. Yak yak yak. Sorry. Okay. So here, second one, National Park Buffer Zone, where you have to pay for. Oh, interesting here. Well, mammals, main mammals: snow leopard, musk deer, and red panda. Not where we were, but and then there's all sorts of payments for whatever you want to do, including fatty. Volleyball. There were people. Yeah, there was a volleyball net actually at Gorak Shep, and I thought, how can you possibly pay volleyball like this? Or here, you notice there's bangi jumping. Okay. Anyway, there's
So what sort of money was that roughly?
can't remember how many was it to the.
No, I still don't know. to be
I'll
honest.
have to. Okay, so you have to come back. So we've now got to Tangboshi, 300,860 meters. Oh, and this is the next monastery, where here we went to amazing colours. So we went in to hear the quiet meditation of the monks, and maybe not so quiet. Maybe not so quiet. Anyway, you just listen carefully. You may just be able to hear this. Oh, we lost
They look like those.
and
were they monks?
that's my feet.
Were they monks?
Yes.
They look like children.
Well, there were two young boys. Yeah, they were the youngest there, but they do start them young.
Nice little sing-along number.
Yeah. It's
a bit of snow in the on the left. Can't see.
in here.
No, it's in the,
In front of the trees.
Not sure. No, don't think
Clouds.
so. sometimes what you might think of as clouds is actually the peaks are snow blown, so there's powder snow being taken off it. But these would be definitely clouds. Yeah. Oh, right, we've got another view of Everest. I think you've got some cloud round here. I mean, you're talking quite big distances. This is taken with quite a decent telephoto. And here's Na Wang, our yak man, with his zoos. 1, 2, 3. So we would put our packs outside the rooms every morning. He would pick them up, and he would arrive, and they would be there by our rooms by the end of the day. So he would suitably overtake us. Now, hang on. I'm just trying to think which peak that is. Is it
Refer to your notes.
Amadablan?
I don't think it's Allenborough.
No. Yeah, well, it's a mountain.
It's lovely.
It's not the one they named after me, is it? Pomori. I mean, they didn't get the.
It might be.
Yeah, that's how I think it is. I didn't get the spelling right, but I could take it. And that's the kind of view from our room, which is quite amazing. Another yak. Now, what about this? We stopped for tea someplace. Solar power. This is the alternative version, and these are actually supplied into the village by the company Exodus that we went with. So this is the alternative version of solar power. You fill up your kettle, put it in the middle there, and point this thing at the sun, and lo and behold, very quickly you get your kettle full of boiling water, which is amazing. You're not converting solar power into electricity, then you're using electricity to boil water. It's kind of going direct, which is simple and very effective. Now, the next tea house, there was an exhibit of all manner of items which have actually come from the previous expeditions. As the glacier is actually the Khumbu Glacier is coming down, things that were actually dropped in expeditions way back actually appear or may appear at the side of the glacier as it thaws out, as it actually comes down. So these things you can actually pick out. In fact, we could see pieces of clothing or whatever, and probably going back to expeditions which might have been in the 50s or 60s. But here's a collection of things which have been brought back. And here we have a ladder from the 1953 successful expedition, and a gas bottle, again from 1953.
Find any bodies?
Well, there are quite a lot up there, actually, well preserved. This is actually a photo of a poster which is showing Everest, the Hillary Steps, the South Col, and Lhotse. This is the Lhotse face. Now, if we have snow in Hampshire, this is the thing to remember. The Yeti doesn't walk kind of forward, it walks sort of sideways. So if you see tracks like this, where the toes are sort of on one end, beware. Okay, this is we're talking health and safety here. So do remember that and be careful.
Do they believe that they're Yetis?
What do you mean believe? Of course. I mean, next you'll be saying you don't believe in Father Christmas. Okay, so we got to Dingboshi. It was
your bag on the roof there?
Oh, sorry.
Was that your bag on the roof?
Yeah, they put it up there just to see if I could get it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nobody in the chair.
Yeah, things are getting sort of quite cool here. I think Dinguashi's 4,400 metres, 14 and a half, 15,000 feet. Yeah, so we got up to see the sunrise. Pretty cold, I suppose about, not much less than about -5 probably. But sort of snow-covered frost. That was the view from my room. Again, wonderful, I mean, clear skies and very cold, but beautiful. Of course, no pollution in the air, so wonderful conditions. Now that, I believe, is a red start. Which I managed to get a bit of a close-up photo of. Just breathtaking, the distances, and you know, as you look at the terrain round there, you realise just how amazingly massive it is. Valerie Ardida. And we got to Tukla for tea break. Now again, porters, I don't think I'd like to be carrying this thing, but everything has to go this way. Normally the porters have got this as probably a kind of bedroll as well, which is underneath their backs, which levels out the load, particularly if they're carrying something which is like these long sheets of plywood or whatever, otherwise it would be scraping along the ground. And then they've got this headband, which again, if we were to do anything like this, I'm sure our necks would be suffering big time.
What's the average age of the porters?
They vary, they're young and older porters, quite, I mean, from probably teenagers, maybe some of them.
Teenagers, they tend to start, but then if they don't progress after a quarter, they'll stay.
It must affect their spine doing that.
Their
day.
feet
Well,
were totally different shaped. So they had like quite wide feet. And Valerie was saying it's because they're taking such a heavy load that obviously their bodies adapt to it.
yeah, I think their neck muscles must be
Yeah.
adapted over, you know, many years. And this poor guy is got, I think these are solar panels, which are going to base camp to make sure that the tourists have got everything that they need. But, I mean, they're getting well paid for it. So, you know, there is that. But again, he's got this roll actually underneath his spine there, so he can actually do that. But yes, I don't think I want to swap jobs. At this stage, we went to a place where they have it's a memorial to all those that have passed away on Everest, including, may recall, the Scott Fisher attempt in 1996 when so many people died. And here we are. This is a typical view of a tea house. So you've got this main room, tables all the way around, all the trekkers congregate, and then you would get there by sort of 5 o'clock, order up your dinner, and 7 o'clock that would tend to be something like that would be served. Oh yes, I couldn't resist this. This is in the loo, and there is a reference here. Oh, sorry. Please say it's usually no cooking in the lavatory. Don't think I'd really want to go. Apparently some people want to cook. I don't know whether to save money or cooking in the loo. Yeah, I think anyway. On we went. Now, difficult to see what's going on here, but here is the Khumbu Glacier, and in the distance, this is our first sight of Everest Base Camp, and it's tucked in there.
The whole town.
It just puts it all into perspective, it's so tiny.
Yeah,
It's the base of the mountain.
correct. We finally got to Gorak Shep. So this is the stepping off point for getting to Everest Base Camp. So we're now at 5,150 metres, so that's around about 17,000 feet. Katerina, and here we've got the flags from every trip, or a lot of the trips, trekkers that actually got there before.
They got Southampton Sailing Club.
Well, I'll come back to that. Okay, so at this point, what we did was along the way, and there's one here, a climatisation trek up to Kalapatar, which is 5,550 metres, which goes up to 18,000 feet. When I looked at the details before I went, I thought it said acclimatisation day. So I thought, great, I can lie in bed, take it easy, and just get acclimatised. Oh no! Oh no! On acclimatisation day, you're actually going on a trek up higher, but you actually come back down to the same place. So yeah, it wasn't as relaxing as I thought. Let me just see. Oh yeah, the memorial to the climbers is Chukpolari. Okay, so here's the gang on our acclimatisation walk. Oh.
With Eric Shepard.
Is that the wind?
Yeah.
1936, he got to the North Cox. That was another British expedition.
Yeah, that's Valerie giving some useful commentary. And here we have the Tibetan snowcock.
Oh, how wonderful. And they only live
Beautiful
there.
plumage. The Norwegian blue Tibetan snowcock, I believe.
And they only live at that altitude.
Well, yeah. But there's more.
Alright. Loves the lemon cake. It was. See, there's definitely a reason he kept it.
That's Linda giving commentary as I'm feeding the Tibetan snowcock with the remains of my lemon drizzle cake from Tukla, which I'd happen to have with me, fortunately. The first time I've fed a Tibetan snowcock, to be able as an aside, when I got after the end of the trip, I did a write-up for Exodus. And so I did the thing, I did it online, and I went to post it, and it came back saying, no, there's a problem here. There's a problem with the language or whatever. Something I've written is wrong. You know, it's profane language, I think it came up with. So I went back through. I thought, well, obviously I'd made a typographical error. You know, I went back through that. No, nothing there. I thought, well, maybe some of the place names, it means something in a different language. I thought, well, hang on, no, this is in English. It can't be that. Then I realised that it was, there was a problem with this bird. And when I changed it to Tibetan snowbird, it was okay. I don't know how plumbers do a write-up, you know, but you know, it must be pretty difficult. Okay, so this is the one, yeah, this is Kalapatar, and that's the team. Now, talking about recycling, fortunately there was some benches up there. I don't think I didn't do the last kind of 50 metres or so. But this bench here is actually from recycled material, and it's also a good place for hanging my socks. This bench is made from 3,290 used shampoo bottles, diverting 50 kilos of plastic from landfill. Okay, so we're getting close to Everest Base Camp here. Here's the glacial moraine below. And here you can see the glacier. The glacial moraine is actually sort of partially covering some of the glacier. And because of the tremendous forces, the glacier is pushed up into seracs. So these are 2 or 3 stories high, and we're actually, it does a kind of a 90-degree turn, the Khumbu Glacier, as it comes down from Everest. And that's the view close up of Everest Base Camp, which I think looks kind of a bit like something out of a Bond movie. Just incredible. So it kind of changes every year because there's sort of movement in terms of the glacial moraine. But basically anywhere where there's a sort of slightly flat area will be used by the expedition. People are organising the expeditions who put the tents up beforehand, waiting for the climbers to actually arrive. And
the Everest full itself, the base for itself. And this section down at the bottom, no stopping, no photographs.
No
Keep an eye out
photographs.
for the rocks falling down, just till we get to the bottom of the end. It's downhill.
that's me panting in the background.
There's Everest. Base camp.
I made it! Notice someone has crossed out Everest and put Chomolungma Base Camp, the local word for Everest. 5,364 metres, about 17,500 feet. So we left early and got in there. Those that perhaps have to go back to Gorokshep would maybe have come later, and a lot of them arrived sort of quite late. And then you're sitting in a queue to have your photograph taken at Base Camp Rock, and that incidentally is the 3rd Base Camp Rock, because of the movement of the terrain. Base Camp Rock might kind of disappear, so they've got to choose one. So that's the 3rd one, and on we went. So these are expedition climbers who are practicing their climbing on the seracs adjacent to Everest Base Camp. And so the arrangement was that we would use expedition tents, which had already been put up in preparation for expeditions actually coming to base camp. So they would be coming some days later. So it was a very good arrangement because everything was set up for us. The tents, our dining tent, and there would be chefs there to come up with food for us. So a very good arrangement. And that's me in the tent, and that's my toes, and the view out.
Hello!
This is our slumming tent for dinner. Flowers on the table. Yeah. Some drinks. Here's Katerina. Katerina. Hello. Fine.
Yeah, all mod cons. It was quite warm in there, wasn't it? It was very warm. Because with the sun reflected off all the snow around, it can actually get sort of quite hot. It's pretty. The tents we were in at night were very cold. Yeah, sorry, this is the teapot stance. Anyway,
Is there a propping up Everest as well?
sorry?
A propping up Everest?
Yes. Thank you. And that's me in the tent. And if we look suitably closely, That's the Southampton Sailing Club sweatshirt. I mean, in the tent, so for the expeditions, there would be an altar. Prayers would be said before any expedition team goes up. Lots of prayer flags. Whilst there, I mean, you would do normal kind of things. Certainly, I would feel. I don't know about Linda, but just absolutely exhausted. So you would have to do, as Saroj would say, slow and steady in everything you did, because otherwise you'd just be totally out of breath. So, kind of basic things you take for granted would be really quite tough. Now, while we were there,
See the birds. I wouldn't have thought there'd be birds that high up.
notice the avalanches coming down this side as well.
Yeah.
For the birds, any sort of scrap food which was around would be put out on ground sheets, and the birds would come and sort of eat it. So it's another
They
way
all
of...
chuffs.
No. I didn't see any choughs at Everest Base Camp, but small birds. Quite a lot of birds around. Amazing sort of snow scenes around there. Incredible.
Was it noisy? Was there a lot of noise coming out of the glacier?
No, not that I particularly observed. I mean, yeah, perhaps a bit of creaking every now and then. I didn't particularly notice it.
Rocks falling whenever it melted, you'd hear. During the night, everything's quite solid. You shouldn't hear much, but then during the day, it would start to melt and it would tumble away.
So the following morning, we set out onto the ice field with our yak tracks. Okay, yeah. Okay, so it's like a kind of crampon, but it's kind of spring-loaded. You put on your boots to give you extra grip in the snow. So we're out on the ice field now.
What's the temperature up there?
Let's just have a look at this. It's me panting. -5, maybe less than that. I don't know. It was pretty cool. I mean, with the sun there and with the snow, it did tend to sort of warm up, but the nights were cold. Here's my photograph in. That's Saroj, our guide. That's his glasses. So we've got the mountains in the background and the Khumbu Glacier in the foreground.
Is that Everest?
It's not. You can't see Everest from Everest Base Camp.
Oh, right. You said yes, well, we know the difference.
We believe you.
Linda would have said.
Yeah, AI can do anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We believe you won't.
We believe you, but thousands wouldn't. And this is on the way back down with the gang, and our first pint for about 10 days or 12 days, which actually went down very well.
Super strong.
Yeah.
Is it super
Uh,
strong? It was 8%.
we didn't care. We just
To be fair,
didn't care.
I said to Julian, I said, I'm getting a drink now. Will you share this with me? Because I will be hammered if I have one of these on my own. And
What can I do? Here to help. Here to help.
yeah.
The thing is, the stronger it is, the less cans they have to take up.
Yeah.
Good point. Good green issue there. And as a final one, actually, later on, I did happen to bump into an old mate of mine on the way down. Tiger Woods was there. God, dear me, old mate. And I told him at the time, I said, be careful about your drinking, but would he listen? Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That was the end of the talk. If there's any questions, I'll just